Here. Thank you.
So we have a pretty packed agenda. We're gonna have an opportunity of really rolling up our sleeves on looking at both workforce development opportunities as well as DBE opportunities. So you'll receive some pretty great reports on that a little bit later, and then we're gonna ask all of you to lean in with us and do some brainstorming as we've been doing and as we kind of wrap up that piece. Before we do introductions, Emily, I'll ask for you to kind of take us through our housekeeping material here.
Sounds great. Thank you. If we could please get the slides pulled up.
Emily, are you muted?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I can't see the slides.
Okay.
If we could get the slides pulled up.
Just take some.
Okay, I'll handle it from here. I better pull up this. I got new prescriptions, but still here. So, just a reminder, closed captions are available in English and Spanish. English closed captions are available within Zoom and YouTube. Users can follow this link to view both English and Spanish captions in a separate browser window, https://ivr.news/captions. Next slide, please. Just a reminder as to how to access closed captions for our virtual guests. At the bottom middle of your screen, you should see a menu of options. If you can't see the menu, hover your mouse over the bottom middle of the screen. Click the square CC icon towards the right side of the menu to toggle captions on. Click the sub-menu arrow to access more settings, including language, font color, and size. Next slide, please. In an effort to continue this interactivity, there is an ASL interpreter in addition to closed captioning. To make sure the interpreter is always visible, please right-click their video and select Spotlight Video. For those watching on YouTube, when we screen share, you will be able to see the slideshow, closed captioning, and the ASL interpreter. You will still be able to hear different people speaking, but may not see them. Next slide, please. There will be an opportunity to provide brief public input later in the meeting, roughly around 9:50. Verbal public comment will be welcome in the Zoom webinar during the designated time with the option to turn on your camera. Please use the link located in the meeting description on the YouTube meeting page or on the IVR CBAG meeting webpage. Commenters will not be allowed to share their screens and will be removed from the room once the public comment period concludes. Comment by phone, you may dial 1-646-931-3860 or 408-638-0968. You want to remember to enter meeting ID number, excuse me, number 823-5803-3783 and passcode 385815. Please remember to dial *9 to raise your hand. After you are invited to speak, please remember to dial *6 to unmute yourself. Emily, are you still unable to see?
I'm back. Yes, thank you. Sorry, I had a technical problem, but
I see what you did there. You
wanted you to read all the phone numbers there, John.
Why don't you walk us through our group agreements?
All right, will do. All right, so our group agreements here for CBAG discussions are to put relationships first, keep focus on our common goal, notice power dynamics in the room and how they may impact our discussions, create space for multiple truths and norms, be kind and brave, practice examining racially biased systems and processes and how those are showing up in our conversations and in the larger picture that we're discussing. This is a learning space for everybody. So look for learning. None of us are, perfect or have all of the answers here. Advisory group members will turn on cameras as you share this space together. Take care of your personal needs as they come up. If you need to step away either virtually or in person, please just let one of the facilitators know. Virtual participants can participate by taking written notes, using the raise hand and speak features for active engagement. We welcome diverse perspectives. It's okay to disagree. We ask those who tend to maybe be a little bit more vocal or more comfortable speaking to move up your listening. And then for those who maybe like to kind of listen and hang in the background, we invite you to move up your speaking as well. We love to hear everybody's perspective. And then finally, let's assume and have good intentions. Next slide, please. All right, and I will turn it over to Administrator Johnson for our welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for participating this morning. Once again, we have a robust agenda and good topics to talk about. So sorry I couldn't be in the room with you there. I have a immediate meeting following that I have to be at in person, so I apologize for not being in the room.
Great, thank you, Greg. And now we'd like to open it up to Mayor Ann, great city of Vancouver.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so very much. Oh, Corky's here.
Sorry, it's first orthodontic.
Absolutely, orthodontia comes first. Welcome, and let's go ahead and get started.
Great, and also would like to welcome our new member, our Deputy City Administrator, Portland, Priya Donapal.
Thank you very much. I'm going to use this opportunity to introduce myself to everybody here. My name is Priya Donapal, and I'm the new interim Deputy City Administrator for the City of Portland and the Public Works Service area. It is an honor to be with everyone here today. I know the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program is of critical importance to the City of Portland, our entire metro region, and the bi-state partners. And Commissioner Mapps has regarded this work with all of you as critical to ensuring the program is responsive to a range of community needs, and I'm super excited to be a part of it. Welcome to the Portland building, and I thank you for your commitment to making this program something we all can be proud of.
Great.
So will Mingus be back at this group?
Yeah, he has an event the mayor asked to be at today. So.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being here. Okay, now we're going to do a round of introductions here in the room. We'll start off first. If you would just please state your name, your organizational affiliation, or at-large status and pronouns if you choose. And then we have a fun question, given that we just wrapped up Summer Olympics. What Olympic sport would you love to compete in? And staff put in there, assuming you had trained and qualified. that was for me mostly. So why don't we start off maybe over there with you, Forky.
Oh, well, yeah, Lori Severino with the City of Vancouver. I'm just a staff person.
Just a staff person.
And I would do gymnastics.
Take on Simone.
Courtney Collier with Columbia Corridor Association. You know, I'm a kayaker, canoeist, rafter, whitewater. They had this new canoeing race, excuse me, kayaking race, 5 at a time, where you're racing against 4 others, and so you're kind of beating them up with your paddle. I'd lose, I'd get bruised, but it would be fun. So.
Morning, I'm Cynthia Castro. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm Commissioner Mapps's Deputy Chief of Staff. And for this Olympics, my nephew actually played on the men's soccer team. I'm also have a soccer background, and so I also would have loved to play soccer too at the Olympics.
Catherine Kelly with City of Vancouver. Really hard question. I think I would do cross country or maybe breaking if I were younger and more creative.
You lived in Australia.
Tom Hickey, I sit on the Citizens Advisory Group and represent the North Portland neighborhoods there. I'm not a sports person, and I have some philosophical objections to the competitive spirit, zero-sum game competition, so I decline.
So everyone was excited.
Chess, you know, something like that.
I'm not quite sure how to follow that one. Long pluck on City of Vancouver. And I'm gonna pivot because the rules don't prohibit it and go to Winter Olympics because I think curling would be fun. And it's actually within the realm of my physical skill possibility.
Eric Holmes, City Manager, City of Vancouver for just a few more weeks. Juan did not introduce that part of himself. So do you want to share a little bit?
Yes, I've been designated officially in the Columbian as the incoming city manager, while Eric is the outgoing city manager.
Yes.
Congratulations. And so this is a bit of a pass of the baton to Juan, but and I would do crew.
Oh.
So many years and you're still learning things.
Yes, that's what that look was.
14, yes. All sorts of surprises. Ann McInerney, Ogle Mayor for the City of Vancouver, she, her, and breaking, just because there is no possible way that could ever happen.
Charlie Francis, Washington State Department of Transportation, she, her, and the term for that thing, which would be my choice too, is kayak cross.
Thank
Which
you.
it looked like a video game. It looked like so much fun. I cannot turn over in a kayak, but it looked awesome.
And good morning again, John L. Bell, co-facilitator of CBAG, he, him pronouns. I love track, and so I think I would have wanted to compete for maybe the 100-meter.
Walter Valenta, North Portland resident. I'm going way back to being a kid, but I would go for the skateboarding. So nothing close to that now, what those guys do nowadays, but
yeah. Although, you know, they're setting up for
Yeah.
the big skateboarding.
yeah.
Not too late.
Shania
That is.
Posey, project manager with the City of Portland, but I probably wouldn't compete in anything because I'd be too busy trying to get breakdancing kicked out. I think examples speak for itself on why I should not be in there, but yeah. Sorry, guys.
Thanks, Shania.
Hi all, Eric Train. I'm with the IBR equity team and also community benefit team. I would love to compete in volleyball, but I'm way too short. And then I was only in the waiting bench when I was in high school.
I'm Priya Dhanapal, she, her pronouns, City of Portland. My son is actually a Junior Olympics competitor for rifle shooting and small bore as well. And but for me, not my cup of tea. I probably would do synchronized swimming. I love swimming, water, and there seems to be some routine kind of dancing to it, which I would enjoy as well. Yeah.
Shannon Singleton, my pronouns are she and her, and I lead the community benefits work for the Interstate Bridge program. I would go with javelin. It was my absolute favorite event to throw, and I did a lot of them, but that one was the most fun.
And Emily, we'll turn it over to you now for our virtual members.
Great, thank you. If I could please ask the CBAG members online to please use the raise hand feature so that we can help call on each other. And I will go ahead and go first. I'm Emily Thomas Peralta. I am with the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program Equity Team as well as Community Benefits Team. And I use she, her pronouns. And my event, it would be softball. I know it's been kind of like added and removed and added back, but that would definitely be mine. I was big time into that growing up competitively and played on the club team at U of O. So I would love to do that. And I will go with Marcus, and then we'll go to Michael.
Okay, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. I'm Marcus Mundy, he, him, his pronouns. I'm the executive director at the Coalition of Communities of Color. And even though I was a high jumper in high school, I would want to be a 400-meter hurdler because that's my son's race. He was a college hurdler, and I would like to race against him and win. So that is what I would love to do. So never happened, but there you go. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Michael and then Peter.
I'm still exhausted just thinking about the 400-meter hurdles. Michael Strauss with Kimco Realty, the owner of the Jansen Beach Center, representing the businesses on Hayden Island, including those in our shopping center and beyond. He, him pronouns, and I'll be the second competitor in spear throwing, javelin.
Pretty much.
Thanks, Michael. Let's go to Peter and then Scott.
Good morning. Peter Fells, he, him pronouns. I represent the Alliance for Community Engagement. You know, off the top of my head, only because I ran track in high school, I would like, and I ran the quarter mile, which is what it was then. Now it's a 400 meter. It's a really hard race. But I also did long jump, and that was a lot more fun. So I would do the long jump because it's easier than a 400 meter sprint.
Thanks, Peter. Let's go to Scott and then Administrator Johnson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott McCollum, he, him pronouns. I'm the superintendent at the Washington State School for the Blind, and I'm going to bring us to the Winter Olympics because I would want to be an ice hockey player, particularly in 1980, but we'll do it today too.
Thank you, Scott. Let's go to Administrator Johnson and then we'll go to Holly.
Good morning, everyone. Greg Johnson, he, him pronouns. I considered maybe synchronized diving, but seeing that I can't swim, that could be disastrous. So, but I come from a line of shot putters, so I would be a shot putter.
You might have a good dive. It's just the recovery afterwards. That's great.
The splash might be a little big, but
exactly. Let's go to Holly and then Vicky.
Holly Williams, our native neighborhood in Vancouver. She, her. Hard question. Synchronized swimming, soccer. One thing, definitely not the 800 in track. I did that in college and I don't ever want to do it again.
Thanks, Holly. Let's go to Vicky and then Ben.
Good morning. I'm Vicky Nakashima, and I am also a member of the Equity Advisory Committee, and I live in East Vancouver. I use she, her pronouns. Let me see. I guess I would compete in an equestrian event. I spent my life from the time I was 6 years old until I retired, showing and competing on Arabian horses.
Wow.
But I would opt at my age now to compete in something where the horse kept all 4 feet on the ground.
Thanks, Vicky. Let's go to, I think it was Ben was next, and then we'll go to Anthony.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Ben Jacobson, representing Jane's Forum and small business owner here in Portland. And I think I would do cycling, bike racing as an Olympic sport.
Thank you. Let's go to Anthony, and then we'll go to Ray.
Hey everyone, good morning. Anthony Samperio, Work Systems, he, him pronouns, Senior Project Manager, Construction Sector Lead. I think I would look forward to the 2028 Olympics and participate in flag football.
Awesome. And let's round it out with Ray.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Ray Maybe, System Administrator for Interstate Bridge, also ODOT employee, standing in for Ryan Winchheimer, who's out today. And since caper tossing isn't an Olympic event, which would be my it was, I would have to default to wrestling because I was a wrestler. And, so, and you're done in 6 minutes. So let's pronounce him. Happy to be here this morning.
Thank you. And we'll turn it back over to you, Jono.
Thank you, Emily. I think next we're going to open it up for public comment. Agenda.
All right. Oh, I can take us through the agenda. So we had our kind of introductory housekeeping items. We will have public comment. Then we will go to our program update. And then next, we'll dive into a presentation on the workforce equity and DBE program plans, followed by a question and answer. And then we will do our presentation on some of the potential community benefits in workforce equity and economic opportunity category that you all have put forward. And then we'll have our large group discussion where we're going to keep it in the large group today, and we're going to build off of those ideas and see if there are any more that folks would like to add. And finally, we will have our closing and next steps. Next slide, please. All right, and I do believe we have a public comment, so I'll read the instructions and then we'll go to the public commenter. So to make a verbal public comment, to make a live comment via phone, dial 1-646-931-3860 or 1-408-638-0968. The meeting ID is 823-5803-3783. The passcode is 385815. Dial *9 to raise your hand. The facilitator will call on participants to provide comment. Dial *6 to unmute yourself. Please provide your name and affiliation. There will be a 10-minute time frame divided amongst the number of requested speakers. If we run out of time and you do not have a chance to speak, you can still provide comments after the meeting. Next slide, please. To submit comments after the meeting, fill out the comment form on the program website or email your comments to info@interstatebridge.org with CBAG Public Comment in the subject line. Call 360-859-0494 for Washington, 503-897-9218 for Oregon, or 888-503-6735 for toll-free, and state CBAG Public Comment in your message. Written comments need to explicitly say CBAG Public Comment in the subject line or in the body of the message for them to be identified and distributed to CBAG members. All written comments must be received prior to 48 hours in advance of each upcoming meeting in order to be distributed to advisory group members. Comments received after that point will be distributed to members in advance of their next meeting. And I believe we have public commenters. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And Jonelle, I will turn it to you to help facilitate this piece for the public commenters.
Okay, and we have 3, so if we can get the clock up, please. Okay, who do we have first as our first public commenter? Amanda, who do we have first up?
All right. And Jonelle, I will turn it to you to help facilitate this piece for the public commenters.
Okay, and we have 3, so if we can get the clock up, please. It must be doing it on that. Okay, who's up first? Okay, who do we have first as our first public commenter?
Whoever's on the phone, 415 number. You will be up, but please only join, turn down your audio if you're joined by YouTube as well, because we're getting echo in the meeting. So phone number 415, please go ahead and give your public comment.
Hello?
Hi, you want to go ahead and give, we can hear you. Go ahead, please. We'll start your clock now.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, I'm calling with regards to the July 25th CBAG meeting where you had a presentation regarding the health assessments. And one of the bullet items in there was a qualitative data collection through community engagement with the advisory groups. My understanding from that meeting that they plan to attach these independently done health assessments of the bridge project and the neighborhoods with the upcoming draft supplemental environmental impact statement, which means it should be coming fairly soon based upon the meeting on Tuesday, which said it should be early fall. So I'd like to understand, as I have not particularly seen it. I live next to the freeway. Exactly how the advisory groups are going about collecting this qualitative data from the neighborhoods that live directly next to the freeway and will be impacted by the freeway project from the point it starts until forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, let's go ahead and bring in our next public commenter. And Julie, you are ready for public comment. If you want to go ahead and unmute, you're also welcome to come on camera. Thank you. Amanda, let's go ahead and bring in our next public commenter. Julie, ready for public comment. If you want to go ahead and unmute, you're also welcome to come on camera. Julie, we're going to need you to turn down or off the YouTube feed that you have going so we can hear you. We're getting an echo.
Are you talking to me?
Julie, are you ready for public comment? All right, Adam, are you ready for public comment?
Note up there, Adam says, I am deaf.
We have ASL interpretation. Is that what we've got streaming on YouTube right now so that Adam can see? Thank you, Adam.
Up down, you by yourself.
This is the interpreter. I'll actually need Adam spotlit and not Amanda to be able to see Adam. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
عملت لك وعم بعمل لك انه قدم بعمل لك تحت البيت يا الحمامات يا بنعمل بالشارع شو بدك؟ لا تفهموا بقى كيف هالقصة هاي؟
ما في تويلتس ما في.
أنا tomorrow we need to change money.
أنا كانت الفكرة إنه بسيطة ببيعها. إنه مش من شأن الربح والمصاري. إنه هو لا يتسلى نحن عم نقول.
يتسلى هينزل يبيع هو.
إيه.
هو قاعد تحت حط له كرسي ينزل يبيع. ما هيك؟ You would sell something. Yeah, but I can only read the text because I can't. Look, I can only read the text, but I can't type. I can't type, but I can only read the text.
Adam, go ahead and give your public comment. We can hear you. And we have our ASL interpreter can see you as well.
My neighbors تقول يا عمي ما فينا. اخي طلع ديني كانت ساعة تكفي بقى في عيد انه خلاص. It's only me. I can see you. مش على وجهه لا. عيد ما بضرب على وجهه يعني ما تنطرني على وجهه ما بضرب. كان كف عيده مرتب. My mom can see me. My dad can see me. I can see you. Don't worry. I can see everything.
Okay, Adam, it sounds like you don't have public comment. You're just here to watch, maybe?
No, but I'm gonna.
Okay. And Amanda, did our other public commenter come back?
Yeah, I'm here to watch. Yes, yes.
So he's just here to watch, I think.
I heard him. Thank you. Amanda, were we able to get Julie connected for her public comment?
No, she has not rejoined.
Okay, thank you. We can go ahead and take the clock down and I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you, everyone, for commenting. It's important. With that, we'll invite our program administrator, Greg Johnson, to provide us an update.
And I don't know if I have any slides associated with my update, but it looks like I do. So let's go to the next slide. So we had a great celebration for the announcement of the $1.5 billion Bridge Investment Program grant. So that was announced in July, and we had a celebration in early August where the Federal Highway Administrator came into town along with Senators Patty Murray, Maria Cantwell, Representative Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. We had the ODOT Director, the WashDOT Secretary. Really a great celebration and a recognition that the program is doing right things. And as I've told members of the other advisory groups, the advisory groups are key critical and have been recognized as a part of the difference maker for this program as we are putting in applications for federal funding. So we got a chance to recognize Bill Ayal from the Cowlitz, who was there. No one could be there representing the Grand Ronde, but it's also recognized that they have played a major role in helping us get to where we're at, along with building trades and labor representatives. So a great overall celebration. One of the things that and I don't know if there's another slide. Yes. So one of the things that we have been doing, just this past week, we held a virtual community briefing. And what the purpose of that briefing was to get folks up to speed on the imminent release of the draft supplemental document. So that is coming up early fall. And so we will be having another one of those briefings this Saturday around noon. So please check our website if you want to listen and participate. We had over 60 people participate in the meeting 2 nights ago and had just a ton of good questions come out of that. So once again, we're getting people ready and prepared to participate in this draft supplemental process and the public hearings that will be associated with it and being able to comment on the document. So we continue to do presentations. The Oregon Transportation Commission, Ray did a spectacular job bringing them up to speed on where things are at. We have the City of Vancouver. We were at the Culture, Arts, and Heritage Commission and their Parking Advisory Committee. We're also continuing to do tabling at events around the region. So one of the most fun events is always the Vancouver's Farmers Market. We were at the Bridgeton Neighborhood Association Annual Summer Picnic, the Providence Bridge Pedal, Vancouver Waterfront Concert Series, and the Portland Summer Concert Series, as well as the Kenton Farmers Market. So we will continue to do these events where we are touching hundreds of people. Folks are stopping by and encouraging the program to keep going and keep moving to get this thing done. So other things that are happening, we had a 2-day training with Federal Transit Administration in our office, As a matter of fact, they're still in town. They're going to be doing a bridge tour this afternoon. So we're learning more and more about the expectations and the processes that we have to meet to get the Federal Transit Administration Capital Improvement Grant. We continue to meet with partners. We're going to have some upcoming meetings with the Bi-State Legislative Committee sometime in early October, as well as with the Executive Steering Group. So we're meeting fewer times with those folks, but it'll be key critical because we will be in the middle of the draft supplemental process. So, but things are moving along well. Once again, we're hitting our milestones. Our federal partners are encouraging us that we are doing the right things, and they're demonstrating that by bringing dollars to the table. So with that, I think that was my last slide. I will stop and answer any questions that folks may have.
Greg, and we do have one question, at least so far in the room. We have Walter.
Hi, Greg. Walter Valenta. How much lead time are we going to get that the document is published? Like 1 day notice, 2 week notice, a month notice? Like how much notice?
We're hoping to give a minimum of 3 weeks of notice before the document is actually published. We have to get signatures, and there's a whole process to get it published on the Federal Register. So all of that has to happen, but as soon as we get those signatures, we're going to announce when the 60-day public comment period opens. So hopefully it'll be approximately a 3-week pre-notice for everyone.
Thank you. Other questions, comments for Program Administrator? Any online? Okay, seeing none. Emily, handing it back over to you to frame up this next piece for us.
Sounds great. If we could get the slides pulled up. Awesome. Thank you, Fabian. So we will turn it over to Yamaya Hall Ruiz, who is our Workforce Equity Lead. And Yamaya is going to give us a great presentation about the Workforce Equity Program Plan and just a little bit of framing before we dive into the conversation around proposed benefits or recommendations around the workforce equity category. We wanted to give all of you really a preview and a view of what the program is doing around these around workforce, and so you can understand the great work that's already happening, and we can build on that through our discussion. And so with that, I will turn it over to Yamaya.
Thank you, Emily. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all today. I usually see you in person, but I have some workforce activities right after this in Ridgefield, Washington, so I'm not able to be there in person. Yes, so just to give you a little bit of background, a lot of these workforce program plan have the data of the more recent workforce market study that you're all very familiar with. So this was designed with the most updated data, and this is going to serve as a strategic plan and implementation of how IBR, the program, is going to handle workforce equity throughout. Next slide, please. Okay, so this plan hopes to advance workforce equity in alignment with the equity objectives established in the equity framework. It provides a comprehensive strategy for workforce development, on-the-job training, and it has components of on-the-job training program, outreach and education, safe and welcoming job site culture program, and it has components to build partnerships with different members. It also has sets hiring targets and mechanisms to monitor and evaluate the success of the workforce equity program within IBR. Next slide, please. Some of the components of the education, training, and outreach that are important and that we portrayed in the Workforce Equity Program Plan. On the job training, the training and promoting of BIPOC and women towards journeyman status is one of the key objectives. And those aligns with the Federal Highway Administration guidelines for determining OJT goals. So we did this because one of the goals is to create a clear pathway to support our workforce regionally and with this bi-state program. There is another piece of it, which is the pre-bid contractor information sessions, and is to help enhance bidders' preparedness and ensure alignment with program expectations. And the audiences that it will be designed is for a small minority and women-owned firms, DBEs, WMBEs, and prime contractors. And we have done a little bit of this work, but this just allows to go back and see what can we keep doing to continue building the program and the regional approach that we have. Next slide, please. Now we can talk a little bit more about the safe and welcoming job site culture and what that means within the IBR. The IBR program will leverage labor agreements and contract provisions to include provisions that mandate prime and subcontractors to abide by the safe and welcoming job site culture program. These provisions establish requirements for contractors to provide safe working conditions, a workplace free from harassment and discrimination, a workplace welcoming to equity priority members, community members, and periodic training dedicated to anti-harassment, anti-discrimination, and workplace respect. These requirements work in tandem with existing federal statutes that support workers' rights and safety. This is a very comprehensive program plan that have so many different pieces, including outreach, that it really can allow us to develop that multi-jurisdictional approach that we talk to through the workforce market study and that we learn, so we can make sure that we are building we're working on workforce equity and that we're building the true pathway and working on being inclusive and accessible, and so we can meet all the needs of the industry for the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Yamaya. And before we turn it over to Monica, I just wanted to mention as well, in part of the work that the program is considering around setting aspirational goals, we have heard feedback, both from this group and from our equity advisory group, that we want to be intentional about thinking about individuals with disabilities and making sure that we are setting goals around that. And so the program is also considering those goals as well, to make sure that we're really being intentional and leading the way in creating those opportunities and a focus on that equity priority community as well. So thank you, Yamaya. And now I will turn it over to Monica Johnson to take us through the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program Plan and Workforce Opportunities.
Thank you, Emily, and good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to give you the highlights of the program's DBE efforts to date. Next slide, please. In May 2024, the program hosted an Industry Day event at the Portland Expo Center to share the conceptual packaging and delivery plan with contractors, including several DBE firms. Multiple considerations were weighed when drafting the conceptual plan, including program cost and ensuring opportunities for DBE participation. The draft contract packages are subject to change as the program continues to seek feedback from the contracting community and refine the cost estimates and design. Next slide, please. Here are the locations of the draft contract packages, of which there are 28 to date. This map was shared with you during the last Workforce Equity and Economic Opportunity discussion. Construction will occur on both sides of the river. Having multiple packages will allow the program to contract with DBEs in both states. Next slide, please. IBR is committed to ensuring DBEs are able to participate on this program. The general engineering consultant has a mandatory DBE goal of 15%. And right now there are 21 DBEs working on the design program, on the design team. The program is continuously seeking feedback from the contracting community by hosting events and participating in community discussions. The feedback received will be taken into consideration as the program continues to refine the draft contracting packages. Next slide, please. There will be several opportunities for DBE participation during the life of the program, which is 10+ years. As you can see, there are many opportunities, so I will not read them all to you. Next slide. The program is actively outreaching to DBEs and SBEs, including hosting and attending events, networking with contractors, holding one-on-one meetings. The goal is to make sure small businesses in both states are informed about the program and upcoming contracting opportunities. Next slide. Program staff participates in regional workshops and events hosted by local small business organizations. Attending these events allows staff to engage with multiple contractors and provide program information to attendees. Soon, the program will launch targeted campaigns on social media and other platforms to inform communities about the upcoming contracting opportunities. Thank you for listening to our DBE presentation today. I will pass it over to Emily.
Thanks, Monica. And next slide, please.
We have a quick question.
Yes, we've got some time for questions.
Yes.
I wonder if we could go back to slide 23. This is Ann McInerney-Ogle. Right there, first bullet. Refresh my memory, the current consultant contract, who is that?
WSP.
Okay, thank you, that's it.
Other questions, comments? For Monica or Yamaya? Yes, Tom.
I'd like to, Tom Hickey from the CAG. I'm interested in knowing how much these programs we've heard about have already been looking at our community benefits list, or are these conversations separate? Are they informing one another at this point, or is that yet to happen? How is the community benefits package that we're working on today going to inform the development of these programs going forward?
Sure.
Absolutely, Tom. It's a great question. We are working closely with those teams. So they've seen all of the proposed benefits to date and are looking at how to incorporate those into their plans. And we'll do the same after today's meeting. If there's any additional new benefits that are raised, we'll share it with those teams. It's not just those teams as well. The other is some of the things that you all have raised, maybe in contract specifications. And so we'll work with the procurement team. They see these as well. We do meetings, 2 monthly meetings with other teams to make sure they're staying looped in and incorporating your feedback. And we'll continue to show you where that shows up as our work moves forward. The other team that we're working with is those who will work on labor agreements or some sort of future labor agreement. Again, some things that are coming up might live in that document. And so that's where we're sharing your ideas with them.
Shannon, quick question, Ann McInerney. When you refer to teams, does WSP have the DBE team?
So IBR has a DBE team, and under WSP, there's a bunch of other subcontractors as well. We're one of them with Espousal Strategies, and there is a DBE team that is specifically working on DBE.
How about the procurement team?
That is also a part of the WSP team, yes.
What about the workforce equity program?
That's primarily Maya, but it is other folks supporting that work, so she's a part of the equity team.
The equity team under
WSP.
Okay. would you do me just a quick favor and just show me a graphic of who's doing what, where, when, because as we look at all of these different things, I know we're getting more and more subgroups, and they're over here and this is over here. I just need to know where everyone fits in graphically. Thank you. Or chart will help. Thank you so much.
Growing works for it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Half the time, I don't know, I'm working with new colleagues all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has a hand?
Correct.
So I just wanted to mention some of the other efforts that are going on as far as both workforce and DBE. Sometime later this year, we are looking at putting out some grants to organizations to start filling the pipeline for workforce. So hopefully we'll start seeing those things getting rolled out later this fall. We meet on a monthly basis with groups that represent small women and minority-owned businesses. So groups like OWAMI, PDBG, the NAMAC, Tabor 100 in Washington. So we meet with them to understand the needs of the small and minority-owned businesses, what they will need to be ready to participate on a program like this. And we're also we keep office hours where we are welcoming small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses to come in and talk to us and learn more about the program. So we've had numerous folks come in, sit with us to understand how they can be a part of this. So a lot of efforts going on this front.
Yes. An observation and a request. So the project has chosen to develop a system of delivery that relies on an ecosystem of curated consultants, right? WSP is the prime. There's a bunch of others under them. Over the life of the project, that will change. So it would be great to know exactly how these values and commitments will be embedded in the project and not be at jeopardy when the ecosystem of consultants changes.
It's a great question. I can touch upon a little bit of that, and then we'll love Greg, if you can chime in. So all of this work that we're talking about, the workforce equity plan, as well as the DBE program plan, that will inform the contract specifications that will be embedded in every contract for all of the packages, right? But Greg, do you want to chime in here as well?
Yeah, so we have commitments from both DOTs as well as other owners that will be delivering contracts such as TriMet and CTRAN, the commitment to equity values and doing the things that that groups like the Community Benefits Advisory Group and the Equity Advisory Group have committed to. And some of those things will find their way into, as John L. mentioned, into project specifications. Some may find their way into the environmental document, the final supplemental. So we will have these things captured and the commitments captured, and there will be groups that will continue with the purpose of making sure that we hold ourselves accountable to the commitments that are made. So this is not a we promise today and walk away from it tomorrow type deal.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. That was that's the risk that this faces, because we're talking a decade or so, right, of work. And how do we assure that those values actually translate into action consistently over the decade? And we don't have, because we've all experienced projects where we had apprentice hours and then at the end of it, you're like, well, I tried and it didn't happen. and you pay your fine and move on, right?
Right.
I mean, and that just simply won't be acceptable for this project. So need
Agreed.
systems in place, systems that assure that's gonna happen.
And I would add, Greg and Ray have, and Frank have worked with us to, we're gonna create a community benefits plan. So there will be all of this captured in one document. So it's not an expectation that communities like, oh, I should go look at the contract specifications for that one. So there'll be an overarching plan that will capture all the community benefits work.
And
Yeah.
that'll include the accountability piece too.
Yep.
Great.
I see you've got two in the room.
Oh, yes.
Cindy and then you're.
Cynthia Castro, City of Portland. The question I had, Greg, as you're engaging with WAMI and NAMAC and hearing feedback around, what does the community need to be ready to be competitive to bid for the project? The question I have is where are the resources to support the actions that are needed to ensure that there is that readiness? So like technical assistance as an example. So I did connect Maya with our city's, Community Opportunities Enhancement Program, which is trying to increase the number of women and minority professionals in the trades. And so I'm just curious, because that also goes to the accountability, because as we do contracting at the City of Portland, we have an aspirational goal of 20% for COVID, but we sometimes get contracts through our bureaus that said, well, our primes tried, but we didn't have enough minority contractors that bid. And so now actually we're passing 5%, 10%. So I think in my mind, I'm really thinking about this like readiness stage, and it feels like there's resources needed to help, to help build that capacity and the readiness. And I'm just curious, where are those resources going to come from?
Correct.
So we have been partnering with several agencies. Apex is one of them, and I'm going to forget the name of the federal entity who provides resources and training for small businesses, minority and women-owned businesses. We have put on, I think the training has gone on for the FARs, the Federal Acquisition Requirement. Yes. We have put on a training at the request of several small businesses that wanted that training as crucial. So we will continue to solicit what is needed and find resources that can put it on. We'd love to partner with others. We know that the DOTs have resources for putting on these type of trainings and events. If we can partner with the City of Portland, the City of Vancouver, and tap into things that you guys do, we'd be more than happy to make those connections as well.
I'm sorry, I was just going to add, when we conducted asset mapping with the partners, a number of people raised programs that they already have going on that they'd like to connect with our team. So that work is happening as well.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll add, it's a great question, because part of the challenge is we don't have enough DBEs that are certified, because it's a really onerous process to become a DBE. And so our equity team has been working with folks who may be certified in either Washington or Oregon, different certification process as a W, woman-owned firm or emerging small business firm, and working with them to determine whether or not there's interest in becoming DBE certified, and just informing them the opportunities that will occur. This project in particular will have a decade of construction. And so really working with firms proactively, if they're not necessarily certified now, to be thinking about certification, and finding out ways the program can kind of help remove some of those barriers has been a big work with the team. But you're absolutely right. It's that proactive technical assistance and building that. We've also been working closely with WAMI, PBDG, NAMAC, other groups to identify what are some of the challenges you all are seeing in industry, and how can the program can do it all, but how do you sort of leverage this program in ways to really dissolve some of those barriers?
Is there somewhere this is summarized and documented, what's been done to date, all the things you just mentioned, both you know, Greg and Janelle and Shannon?
I'm sure we could probably pull something together. I mean, it's widespread. We've got a team that works all the time doing outreach, but we can pull something together.
Thank you. I think that'd be helpful. And then that just gives us a sense of what may be moving forward, and if there are additional resources from the city side we can collaborate with.
Yeah, I think the key is going to be leverage already existing resources, because again, you know, part of what our challenge is, you know, I'm a firm, a special strategies is a team firm. Part of the challenge is there are so many resources out there. Oftentimes folks kind of get lost in the woods. And so, you know, one of the things we've been trying to do is create a sort of a repository of all of the resources. You can find some of this on the program's website, IBR website. EBE specific page has some of these resources, but really working intentionally to remove some of these hurdles is part of it. I could talk all day about this, by the way. Mary Ann, I know nothing about this, by the way. It's very hard.
So Shannon, when you do the plan, I love the fact that we have a lot of things already going, that just under the workforce equity piece, we have 44. But we have 7 under childcare. We have 6 under apprenticeships. We have this, that, and everything else, but they're spread out all over the place. Could we lump them together so we have groups that want to talk childcare, and then we could see all of the childcare together? Are they the same thing, different verbs, or is there a gap? Will help us understand if we are truly looking at everything under childcare.
Yes, and that's the next stage of your work. This is your last brainstorm session.
Right.
So when we come back for review and refine, that's exactly what we'll be doing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Yes.
I just wanted to offer something really quick. Caitlin, Ref, City of Portland. In that discussion, when you all are having those outreach conversations with different organizations, we have done those. We would be happy to join, just really recognizing that it can be so overwhelming and there are different entities doing different things and different programs available. So in as much as it would be helpful to have a City of Portland staff representative as part of that as well, to help explain what we maybe have, you know, going on, or where we could be supportive, we'd be happy to do that. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on, Greg? Yes.
I was just going to say, Caitlin, we'd love to have you join us, and others who want to sit in on some of these monthly conversations. We'll make sure we reach out to you guys, and if you give us the appropriate person, we'll get them an invite to sit in with us. Because once again, this is going to be a team effort with all of the partners helping to bring resources and expertise to the table.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, Emily, I think we're turning it over to you to kickstart our next conversation relative to community benefits examples, and then we're going to get into some brainstorming. Again, the purpose of this these presentations or to sort of inform you what IBR is already thinking. Now you'll have an opportunity after this section to add to that, as well as give us additional thoughts and perspective. So Emily.
Thank you, John. That's exactly right. You know, I think as you all look at the handout where there are some of the benefits or recommendations that you all have put forward so far, you will recognize there's some alignment with what the program is already doing. And so that's exactly why we wanted to make sure we gave Monica and Yamaya a chance to share what's going on with the program, and we can go ahead and build on that. So next slide, please. So to take us through just a few of the examples that you all have put on the table so that we can get our minds churning and start building off of them. Under DBEs and small businesses, some of the ideas that you have put forward are to ensure that minority contractors, particularly Certification Office for Business Inclusion and Diversity, or CBAG firms, and Washington State Office of Minority and Women Business Enterprises certified firms have opportunities for competitive bids in bridge construction. Another is to provide opportunities for supporting small business development. So we've talked quite a bit about that today. Next piece is around workforce outreach and training. So prioritize creating childcare centers that support the workforce, address housing needs of the workforce. And we wanted to give a reminder that this isn't included in our community benefits category, but we wanted to bring it forward for this conversation as well, since it aligns really well with that workforce support piece. Another example were to develop collaborative training and apprenticeship programs with colleges and high schools to improve graduation rates and enhance workforce readiness. Next slide, please. And then, as the program is going to potentially explore labor or workforce agreements or contract specifications, some of the ideas that you have put on the table that may be related to that would be to develop rapid in-house procedures for complaint resolution, considering the labor union's involvement, to swiftly address grievances and avoid extended equal opportunity commission processing times. Another could be to establish platforms like periodic surveys or dedicated websites for employees to report issues, empowering them and encouraging business owners to sustain equitable environments by providing transparency and accountability. Next slide, please. And so before we move into discussion, I just wanted to give a quick reminder, as we've shared, this category is a bit different than some of our others in that really this will not move into the review refine stage, but because these recommendations really fall under the purview of some of these other teams, like the workforce equity team, DBE team, the potential labor agreements. So your recommendations are really going to help inform the work of those groups. And that's where you'll see on the tracker, we have made in the status column, we have made notes about what teams those recommendations are being referred to so that it can inform their work. So just wanted to give a reminder that this category is a bit different, but we know that all of you have been very excited to talk about workforce. We've heard it come up in some of our other months, so we wanted to make sure we brought it back and we could discuss it more. So with that, we will turn it over to our large group and we will have our brainstorms.
Great, and maybe just to add another piece of information, this group will recall that the program commissioned a study with Work Systems Inc., Workforce of Southwest Washington, as well as Clackamas County Workforce Organization. And so much of the fodder that you just reviewed sort of responds to recommendations out of that study, and a lot of the work that you all have offered as recommendations as well. And so it sort of builds upon all of that work. So we'll open it up for discussion. What are your thoughts? Where are we right track, maybe wrong track, as well as what things should the program also be thinking about within the context? We already heard a few earlier, which is, how do we leverage our partners so that we're not duplicating? Those types of thoughts I think are helpful. See, Walter, just gonna kick us off.
This is a clarifying question. So in order to count in the statistics that we're measuring to see if we're meeting these goals, a business must be certified as a DBE business.
In order to count the DBE participation,
right?
Referring to, yeah. And so because this program will be federally funded, there's a requirement that we have a DBE goal. The goals will likely be set by each package. In order for the program to get credit for achieving that goal, firms must be DBE certified. So that will be one metric, but the program, as indicated earlier, will also be tracking things that may fall outside of the DBE designation. We know on either state, we have designations for women-owned firms, emerging small business firms. So those will be tracked as well for firms who may not necessarily be certified. But we will have a set goal for DBE.
So then, to me, it suggests that very, very first, getting people certified is like a starting point if that's the gateway into this.
Here. So I'm hearing. Make sure that we really get firm certified. Greg, please.
If I can add to that, we also know that there are some firms that have that are minority and women-owned firms that have grown beyond the DBE program. And I'll give you an example, Raymore Construction, a large African-American owned construction firm. We're going to be encouraging firms like that to participate in this program because they also bring not only diversity, but they bring a diverse workforce with them. So there'll be outreach to firms that may not be DBEs, but maybe women-owned, minority-owned, that we still want to see participate in this program.
Yes.
I think that would be a great way to bring them into the program through the SBA Mentor Protege program that they have in place already, to their federal project, where they have larger companies that basically go and mentor smaller firms and allow them to be added under their contract. And there's motivation under the RFPs that are put out for that type of work. So I think Raymore would be a great mentor for some of these smaller firms.
Great suggestion.
Okay, Tom Hickey, yeah.
And you know, these are new prescriptions too, and I'm still having a hard time.
They look
I know, right? That's hard. It's like, yeah, Vince Crafter, how about that?
So this is a kind of a messy document, and in some ways that's fine because it's just like a bunch of ideas thrown on the table and collated. I totally agree that they should be sorted and organized, but I also feel like, as Shannon has said, that's the work that's going on in these teams off stage, as it were. So, you know, how much of that do we have to do for them? How much are they going to do for themselves? But we need to understand the broad categories of what we're talking about, first of all. And so there's things like training and apprenticeships and things like that, outreach to high schools, stuff like that, that I feel like is pretty well covered by standard best practices and already incorporated in the planning that's going on in these other committees. And so for me, the question is, do we want to dig deep on those kind of topics, or do we want to start by identifying the other things that have kind of been overlooked by standard best practices, like we've identified childcare, housing and transportation, workforce transportation questions that didn't show up on these presentations. And do we want to drill down on those and, you know, identify those issues, or, you know, find out the new broad categories that haven't really been considered yet? I'm asking a question of the committee and how they feel about that set of issues, because I do feel, I mean, you're questioning whether my assumption is correct that they have identified.
I don't want to assume that it's been done. I want to make sure it's in writing, because when Greg retires from this project, everything that we want should be in writing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to assume that, oh yeah, we thought that was an automatic.
Sure, absolutely.
Greg, I think we're just extending.
Wait a minute, are you sending me away, Madam Mayor?
10 years in, I'm sure.
Ball and chain for another 5 years, right?
I think I heard yes. I think that's a really interesting question. And Shannon, I don't know if you have some initial thoughts.
I think it's up to this group really, and I think that's part of where Tom's going is, what do you all want to spend your time on today? Because this will be the last time we talk about this here, and then we're going to dig into the details in every other category to get you to really specific recommendations. So I think that's a good question for the group, and I think we've got enough time to kind of do a both and. If you feel like there's things you really want to talk about that, to Marianne's point, this isn't on, we want to make sure it's on there because it sounds like it's best practice, but we want to see it in writing. And then there's things that you might want to drill into that are aren't necessarily commonly taken care of, like housing and things like that. So I think you can be really open with how you all want to use your time today.
But Tom, we could do a general statement. We assume or we expect best practices to include the and then move on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just want to highlight, we have Holly here online with hand raised.
Great. Holly?
Yeah, I just wanted to share an anecdote. Back in the spring, I attended the Vancouver Public Schools Foundation Luncheon, and I had the good fortune to sit next to the CTE teacher from Hudson's Bay High School. His students, you know, are the kind of students that we want to be working on the bridge, it would seem, in a few years. He was very unfamiliar with what was happening with the bridge, IBR. He shared with me one of his students who won Skills USA in electrician and had applied to the electricians union. And I'm not picking on the electricians here. It's just an example of how hard it is. She basically was not accepted, and apparently it's a very competitive program. There's just a lot more information for students on how to get into college than there is in how to get into many of these programs that are fundamentally the workforce that will be building the bridge and the ancillary projects to the bridge. So I think we just got to be careful of what we assume is happening with the schools. And I think one thing I will say is I did connect him with our IBR sort of community outreach folks, and he will be setting up an opportunity for somebody to come speak to his classes this coming school year.
Absolutely. And I would add, because I've heard from this group as well, that we're doing work to ensure that we're connecting with programs and agencies that serve youth experiencing homelessness, so that we're actually opening opportunity to those who may be disengaged from school as well.
Okay.
Good. Two questions I think you can answer fairly quickly. One is, you know, as Walter pointed out, it takes a long time to become DBE, or even, you know, we ran into this problem last year. We got a DEQ to include advantage to being a co-bid firm or some bids. The problem was it takes 3 months to become a co-bid firm, and the bid window was 90 days. So it's like, well, you know, gee whiz, we need to get this going early. So is there a way, have you given thought into how we can perhaps take co-bid and OMWB firms and help translate that? You know, they've already got a boost. They're going in the right direction, being a co-bid or OMWB. Can we leverage that to become DBE?
Yes, and so that's a good point. To your point, a lot of firms may not be DBE certified. They may be M or E or one other sort of alphabet. Part of what's required in order to be a DBE is you got to meet a lot of federal sort of boxes, and that process has just been updated. Under the Biden-Harris administration, they just reformed the DBE certification process. So we anticipate that it will be easier for DBE firms to be certified in multiple states. So that's going to be one thing that we'll be watching. But yes, we have been having those conversations with both states to identify the folks who may be certified as W or E and work with them to see what barriers they're experiencing to become certified as a DBE.
Yeah, and I guess specific to our work, do we need to include anything here to help with that effort?
I think whatever your statement or reinforcement of that, I think is helpful.
Okay. And if I could, one more question, which is, and this one might get a little more difficult. DBE firms, of course, extremely important, but also very important are the minority BIPOC employees in a non-DBE firm. How do we balance those two things? I mean, we want to encourage DBE firms, but at the same time, we don't want to lose the minority employees in the non-DBE firms. How do we, have you wrestled with that?
We have. I'll yield to my program administrator to answer that. Greg.
So we think that this program, given the size of the investment and the length of the investment, is going to require all hands on deck. So we think that everyone is going to get an opportunity and a shot at either being a business that works on this or a part of the workforce that is supplying the labor to build this thing. We know that right now there is a gap in the number of employees needed. That's why we did the workforce study to identify the gap. So we think that we're going to be bringing in folks and begging folks to come work on this project, incentivizing folks to come work on this project. So we think there's going to be room at the table for everyone.
And some of how that can be operationalized is again through contract specifications, where we can direct the contractor, to hit apprentice goals, for example. This is where we've heard around this table, as well as EAG, Equity Advisory Group, and others. How do we hit a new watermark for persons with disabilities? We have some of the unconscionable highest unemployment in our communities with disabilities. How can this program begin to sort of change that? And then again, how do we lean into setting targets for women as well as people of color, and tracking those and reporting those out to the community as well. So that's been part of the dialogue, that sort of balancing act we're talking about. Thanks. We also know that DBEs tend to hire from communities often not in the construction or otherwise workforce. Rainbow Construction being a good example. African-American DBE firm. If you look at Jeff's workforce, probably over 60-70% women, people of color. So part of how we change the workforce challenges, we introduce more DBEs into the ecosystem.
I know.
Yes.
So thank you. I have a comment, or rather a reflection for consideration. I see a lot of effort being put into outreach and making sure we have those the mandatory goals for the firms. I think that was commendable. I was wondering if you're this is great work that you're doing, and immense amount of work in trying to make sure all these goals are met. Is there work being put into a visual representation of these are the number of firms that we are contracting with for COVID funds. These are the people of color that we're employing. Is there a visual representation on a website or somewhere that we can either to this group or for the general public for them to see? Is that being considered?
That's a great question. So the answer is yes. For the existing contract, which is under, again, WSP, the General Engineering Consultant, on the IBR web page, we have a dashboard where you could look at the number of DBE firms that are currently on the program and the demographic makeup of that. That's just a starting place. We'll want to build upon that as we kind of get into construction. And again, this is where the specifications become important, because we can direct the contractor, as you know, what data we will want to receive from them in terms of workforce. So we can dashboard that out. And there are some great examples, I think, here regionally, Abernathy Bridge being one of them. If you look at their dashboard, it's pretty phenomenal where they have the preferential hiring program. You could hover over a zip code and see how many workers are being hired in that zip code. So those are some examples.
Fantastic. I think if you continue building on that, this is a great opportunity. There's billions of dollars, 28 projects over a long 10 years to showcase not just to the public, but also as an accountability tool to make sure we're hitting all those goals. So.
Absolutely. That's a really great comment. Okay, Mayor and then Tom.
Sure. I wonder if we could look on the second page at number 13 and number 17. And if you would start by reading number 17 and then go back up and read number 13. I wonder if those are the same or if we're talking about different things there. And then I have a second piece.
What page are you reading?
The second page, workforce 17 and workforce 13.
Okay.
Tom, does that talk
if we could put that on the screen for folks who are remote.
It'll just take us a moment to put it up. It's for those who have quick access to your email, it is the handout that was shared with CBAG, and then we'll get it up on the screen.
I've got it. I can share.
Okay.
Thanks, Emily.
So I notice we're using slightly different terms: develop workforce training programs, develop comprehensive workforce development programs. Are those the same thing?
I feel like they significantly are, but I think that does come back to the question of whether it really matters whether we're being redundant in this list or not, because the work is being refined by these other teams. And is that okay that we sort of say the same thing several different times in several different ways?
Sure, Tom, I understand where you're going with that. But I was looking at after heading into number 13. Do we want high school in number 13? Because right now we have including higher ed, but we could put high school in there. And my question is, why did we say training in high paid trades? Can we just say trades?
You all can say whatever you want to say.
Well, and really we have about we have 20 minutes left, that I'm trying to get back to one of the things that we were talking about earlier. Let's not assume that it'll automatically happen. So I'm looking at number 13, including high school, higher ed internships, apprenticeships, targeted training in the trades with a focus on increasing and preparing students in high schools and community colleges. So there's the high school piece of it. But I want to make sure that we don't have a gap. And I'm trying to figure out if that covers what I see as a gap.
I ran into the same thing. I got confused with high paid trades. Trades, statistically speaking, are middle wage jobs, and very, very few low wage, very, very few high wage. So they are middle wage if you're looking at trades. You don't need, and so if you say high wage trades, are you talking about high wage jobs? Or are you talking about the high end of the middle wage? Or, so yeah, I got confused too. I think it might be better to pull that out.
Is that a high skilled trade that we're referring to?
I don't know. I think.
No, it's verbatim what folks said in the first session. So this is what was stated, and it's fine for us to make that change.
Yeah, I think we should strike that.
Seeing some agreement, are folks good with that?
So we have high school and community colleges, we have higher ed up there. I guess we don't need to put high schools in there again. In fact, I'm wondering why we have including higher ed when you have it, unless you want to move it down below. But that feels like we do have it covered. We are asking that we have a comprehensive workforce training or a workforce development I don't know what development means. I do understand what training means, but that feels more, I'm more confident that now it's in writing. Now we can expect it to happen.
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Tom?
Back on the DBE small business questions. You had mentioned, Janelle, about DBE certification across multiple states, which suggests a sort of national scale firms that would have the capacity to be multi-state certified. Is there anywhere in our documentation that prioritizes local firms, local hiring, for Oregon and Washington specifically? To make them the focus of where the money gets spent rather than on some firm from Atlanta or Hong Kong?
Right. I think there are federal prohibitions on that, particularly within the context of DBE program. But who we're outreaching to, we probably can have some language relative to that. In other words, when you're certified as a DBE, you can't have a preferential treatment of that DBE if you're local versus not. the feds would not look fondly on that.
I see. I see.
Because that's the whole purpose of having being a DBE, and the new rule that they just issued makes it easier to be certified across multiple states. There was a time if you were a DBE, let's say in Oregon, you know, you have to go through all of that initial application process to be registered in what's referred to as your home state. Well, if I wanted to be registered also in Washington, I had to submit the same level of documentation to be certified there. That process has now shifted. So if you're certified in Oregon, you now just essentially have to submit kind of an affidavit to, like, let's say Texas, say I'm certified in Oregon, here's my certification, and then you become certified in that state. And the whole premise of that rule change was to make it easier for DBs to do work across multiple states.
I see.
But Greg, I don't know if you want to chime in here on that one.
Yeah, we are with the rulemaking that just happened within the last year impacting the DBE program. They are seeking to make it easier for DBEs to have certification in different states. But once again, we're also looking at how can we grow the DBE population in this region as a first step. If we can get folks who are wanting to be a part of this but are just not certified, that's our first priority. Bringing others in from other places, you know, since it's a federally funded project, we can't say no to them, but we have a priority of trying to reach out to the local population of contractors who can work on this thing.
Oh.
I mean, just, sorry.
Go ahead.
In summary, I think what we're hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, is the prioritizing the regional reciprocity versus a national reciprocity pool. So the pool from the regional area versus pulling in nationally.
Well, I feel like there's a distinction between who you're contracting to and who you're marketing and developing. So if you're putting your workforce development efforts into the local region, you're creating a pool of possible contractors, but you can't then say, gee, you're a contractor from Atlanta, you're excluded, you know, come on and bid. But now I've got this nice pool of Portland-based contractors that I'm also going to get bids from. And you know what? They might be cheaper because they're local, because they have a different expense schedule.
And they don't need housing.
Right.
Well, the workforce requirements will be the same across all the packages, right? And so that's not going to change. I will still have apprenticeship requirements where, you know, it's unusual to be pulling from, you know, an Atlanta hall. The workers are going to come.
Right. So your management and your
but the
infrastructure may be out of state, but your workforce is still going to be local.
But we can anticipate, Kai, in fact, when we had our event on May 6th, we had contractors from across the country. I mean, this is a project of national significance. But if you're a construction firm, it's a heavy lift to uproot where your existing you know, state is and your firm is, to get bonded and insured in a new state. And so it has to be worth the hassle. It's easier, I think, for some of our professional services firms. So we still anticipate the bulk of the firms coming from Oregon and Washington. And our outreach has included, you know, Oregon, obviously the Portland Metro region, as well as up in Seattle. You know, there are a lot of activity there with DBE firms to kind of express the interest, make sure folks know, you know, we're interested in doing work with them. And the best thing we could do is to, again, be proactive, get the word out with firms in both states, and then figure out how we cut the red tape of firms who want to get certified. The challenge is the program doesn't control the certification process. That's controlled through what's called a UCP, Uniform Certifying, I forget what the P is, program maybe. And so, you know, and there's a process they have to follow to undergo there. So Walter and Mary.
I'm sorry, Jonelle, could I just add on a
Please.
little bit? Part of what our DBE outreach work includes is identifying, as people are saying, these are barriers. We're starting to identify those, and we'll be having some conversations about what, if any, can we address with the various state agencies who do this work if the barriers are common. So we're trying to pick up those common threads when the DBE outreach staff member is meeting with folks one-on-one.
So this is in light of how to create the certification. Perhaps, we meet regularly the fourth Thursday of every month. If there was a regular meeting that was all about certifying DBEs. And so every outreach you run into, you say, great, go to the third Thursday meeting, and there'll be a team of people from Portland, it doesn't have to all be on IBR, to walk you through the process. And then even when you're tabling at Bridge to the Neighborhood, you can say, hey, every third Thursday you can come to and do this. And so that there's a standard way with a team of people from multiple jurisdictions who hold your hand through that process. But also as a small business, see, instead of individually reaching out to each one, they just know, and that can be on the dashboard. So that's a suggestion, maybe an idea on how to do that, and starting now, because if it takes a while, and then if I run into somebody, I'd say, hey, you go to the Thursday meeting. That's a really great suggestion.
Yeah. Is there a cost for the application? Is that a barrier?
I can't recall if there's an application fee. I don't believe there is.
So of course.
Monica, is there?
There is not an application fee for DBE certification.
Okay, so it's time.
Yeah.
It takes time out of a small business owner to do all the paperwork and everything
And
else.
sometimes there are costs to getting the information to inform that. So like rate setting in Washington, which may be a little bit separate from DBE certification, but you need 3 years of auditable books to get a rate that is based on your cost. And if you don't have that, right now in Washington State, we have what we call safe harbor, which gives you sort of a paltry percentage over your sort of actual labor costs to charge for overhead. But that requires that 3 years of auditable books and somebody to look through those and then verify that your overhead rates are what they are.
So you have to take your books into somebody and hire somebody
yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, you have to have
So
the smarts to get that piece
So
done.
that's the cost.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
It's not a fun process.
No.
Yes,
Actually,
that's true.
that's one aspect of the bureaucracy.
Right.
That is.
Yeah,
Right.
and that speaks to the training that Greg indicated earlier. The program, so that's one of the things the program can be doing is bringing in organizations like Apex and others. We did a training on how do you get sort of how do you become audit ready? And what's the process? Because firms have to make the cost benefit analysis to determine whether or not this is the type of work they want to do, given all of that hassle. Wow. So that's been implemented. Yes.
We have a hand online as well.
Okay. We'll go to the room and then online.
Just real quick, you mentioned how the federal process was being updated. Does Oregon and Washington have similar intent to update their application for the COVID? I recently went through the Oregon one and found there was room for improvement. Just in streamlining the questions answered and defining the terminology and just making it more accessible.
Yes, every state's required to per their programs with the federal government. I think they're all on different timelines. So some states are already, complying with the new regulations. Others are still implementing that. I don't know where Oregon and Washington is.
We can give them a boost of encouragement.
And online, who's online?
Vicky?
Vicky, yes.
I recall a discussion on workforce where the idea of accessing ex-offenders or currently incarcerated juveniles who are part of the Oregon Youth Authority as being a potential source of people to train. And I did inquire with Oregon Youth Authority, and my understanding is there's at least one rural camp where they're training youth on using heavy highway equipment or heavy equipment. So they come out with some skills already. So that could be a discussion that ought to be on that list.
That's great. And Yamaya, could you maybe talk, I know you've been doing some outreach. Is that one that we've already connected with?
Yes, not that one specifically. So I want to talk a little bit about the type of outreach we've been doing. We have a very specific outreach plan that we have been developing. And the second phase is all focused on youth. So while we have been outreaching to reentry programs, some wonderful programs in Portland, that work with formerly incarcerated individuals, and they really want to work with IBR, and they're training the folks that we're going to need for the jobs that are coming soon in the next few years. For the youth, for that one specifically, Vicky, we haven't yet, but that's one of our target groups for this second phase, which is very heavily focused on the youth and, how do we make that transition? But yes, it's included in the work that is coming. This has been a great conversation for us to listen, and I appreciate all the comments because it just speaks that we are very aligned with the efforts that we're currently doing. And I just want to mention something really quickly, just for understanding of how we're working regionally. We not only work with all our equity teams with the different pieces, DBE, workforce, but we work with the Joint Advisory Task Force, the JTF, which we meet once monthly, and to make sure that all the agency and all the partners, we are aligning our efforts and how are we going to approach the different assessments. And we really want to make sure that we're uniform and that we have the same understanding to create the least amount of barriers and to support and be as inclusive as possible with all the different equity priority groups.
Right. Thank you, Yamaya. And I think it'd be helpful for this group to perhaps receive the list of folks we have on our outreach list.
Yeah.
Because it'd be great to have folks add to that and give us some of that fodder. We'll go to Peter next and then Mary Ann.
Peter, you're muted.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted. This is a little bit tangential, but we talked about workforce housing. And I just wanted to bring up, I was the other day at the Fourth Plain Commons, which is a sort of a low-income housing project on Fourth Plain Boulevard in Vancouver. They raised the issue that the filters for their air filters on the street side of the building became horribly filled with dirt and other stuff, whereas the other side of the building did not. And it's just the part facing the building. We've talked about, we're doing workforce housing, maybe doing some land swap so that the housing is not right next to the freeway. And this just brought that up to me, that if we're doing workforce housing, let's scatter it around so it's not near congested highways and roads, because it's a health issue, which we talked about at our last meeting. That's it. Thanks.
Quick one, workforce goal 35. Shannon, can we assume, I know we identified 3 groups there, but you would add other groups to expedite discrimination investigations. Are you looking for that type of correction in these documents? Because there are other groups that would be investigating that, not just those 3.
Absolutely.
And I know we only have about 9 minutes left. I wonder if there are other changes or questions about any of the 44. If this is our last chance to look at them, does anyone have any particular concerns with wording in these 44?
always feel bad saying it's the last time, and while it's the last time we'll discuss it, I will say if advisory group members have additions that you can send me over the next couple of days, we can take those in via email. And we'll send it out in the follow-up email reminder, and we'll give you an end date for when we'll be able to receive any more feedback.
And it's a really exhaustive list, so this group gives some really great feedback.
Yeah.
Really
I do have a suggestion for an additional one, perhaps. This is great list for IBR construction. But then I started thinking about, well, what about afterwards? And so I was wondering if maybe adding in something along the lines of assisting the transition of sites that are used during IBR construction to long-term middle wage deployment sites. So you've got sites that are kind of industrial use. They worked well for that during construction. Afterwards, is there, can we do something that kind of says, okay, let's keep these same types of jobs on this site?
Give me an example, Corky.
I'm just thinking there's probably going to be numerous parcels that are either used for construction staging or maybe even actually the old bridge, parts of the old bridge that are ideal for continual industrial use. It may be, a trucking hub or something like that. And those jobs, again, just statistically speaking, you're looking at twice the percentage of BIPOC employees, as compared to the population at large, twice the percentage of LGBTQ employees, and they're all middle wage. So how can we, instead of that, and those are the types of jobs that are going to be on these sites during construction. Then 10 years later, what happens? Well, it's perfect to continue that sort of good work. So after the project
within the context of how the agencies dispose of the real property, what you're talking about is an additional lens.
Yeah, we've done this great work. We've set up a lot of goals here to get the right people, the right type of jobs. We don't want that just to end at the end of construction. How does that continue?
Thoughts? Yes. Oh, Yamaya? Yes.
Yeah, perhaps I can add a little something that we're thinking, and because we have thought about that, what's going to happen, post construction, we're going to have all these people trained. And one of the things is we're trying to build a pathway that truly take us from apprenticeship journey out to potentially creating your own DBE or creating your own business. We know a lot of the folks that are in the field with a lot of experience, they have entrepreneurial spirits, and they, with experience and entrepreneurial spirits, they might want to follow. So we are trying to think ways in which we build the pathway to truly support that. And we create sustainable careers, even post-construction. So that's one of the ways, but of course, we're always open to other avenues. But that's just one of the ones that we've been thinking and building towards.
Thank you, Yamaya.
Yamaya, if I might ask, this is Anne. We have noticed over the decades, different apprenticeship programs are stronger than others. And the recording of hours sometimes gets lost in some of these apprenticeship programs. And so the people going through it never reach their journeyman level. Do we have some assurances in place that those apprenticeship programs during these 5, 7, 10-year programs have value? Does that make sense?
That does make sense, Mayor Ann. And one of the things, that is a great question. And one of the things that we have been doing in the first phase of outreach is meeting with all of the leaders of these pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs and trying to figure out what are the gaps and what are some of the struggles to see how we can support as a program and regionally, like what is truly the multi-jurisdictional approach we can take to ensure that they are successful in journeying out of their programs. So we are working with them to develop different strategies to see how we can support their work and make sure that the rates are successful for journeying out, and they have been sharing some of the information of why it's happening and why their success is happening, or what are some of the struggles that have been very beneficial for us to inform part of this plan and other outreach strategies more long-term to work with them.
So could we have a goal in here that talks about this? Because we've seen apprenticeship reports where someone shows up for a half hour and leaves.
Yeah.
And what do? Sweep the floor? That doesn't help them learn the skill.
Right.
So I don't know, Shannon, how to write that. And I don't know that I see it in here.
Yeah.
But I think whatever Yamaya just said, we need something in here.
Absolutely. We'll capture that. And I see Greg's got his hand up too on that one.
Greg? And then we'll go to
So Mayor, what you mentioned is absolutely right. What we are learning, and we had great conversation with the folks up at Sound Transit who have a excellent pre-apprenticeship program. The key is not only getting folks in the door, but is retaining folks. One of the keys to having successful apprenticeships is a long burn of work.
Yeah.
So we have that as a basis. The second thing is creating an atmosphere where folks feel comfortable. So we're going to be, it was earlier talked about requiring the training, and I forget the name of it, which I always do, for having a workplace that is welcoming and supportive of folks. So those are some of the things that we're looking at, but also tracking is also important, making sure that we have a dashboard that says, okay, here are our apprenticeships and here's how they are doing. So we can quick problem solve and make sure that we are retaining folks once we get them in the door.
Good, thank you, Greg.
Responding to Corky's comment about the land-based things that have been developed for the project and their disposition after the project. And, you know, that's also true for employees and workforce. I'm wondering if we could be specifically requesting that the IBR sort of engage in end of project meetings with the contractors specific to this point, that there be sort of not an exit interview, but a wind down symposium or series of meetings that the contractors and the IBR people, I mean, the IBR's role really would be as a expediter of these conversations, but bring these people together and say, all right, what do we do next? You know, maybe you do this as each of the different phases winds down, and you gather your contractors and you say, you know, what went well and what went badly, and what are we going to do with this property, and what are you going to do with your team next? We want you to go bid on this phase, cross the river and do this other project, but to actually kind of direct the IBR to organize these kind of meetings to bring the teams together and talk about and then maybe you do that already, but it seems like a good way to sort of gather together the learned information that the contractors may hold about what works. You know, if you've got a piece of property that's got great potential to hang on to or turn into something, they'll know that. Or they may say, well, this is great for circumstance, but now that circumstance is over, it doesn't really serve capacity anymore because it's located here and the next project's going to be 20 miles away.
I think we're talking about a transition program for parcels, for businesses themselves and employees. I think all three categories. You know, what do we do afterwards to make sure that the good work continues?
Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify, because I want us always to stay in the world of reality, recommend. You all will be recommending things to the program, so we can actually absolutely put that in as a recommendation.
Okay, we need to wrap up here if we can get
So no, we've got
yes.
we've got Vicky here online.
Okay, yes, Vicky.
I think that the people who negotiate the acquisition of property for highway jobs or big jobs would be ODOT and WashDOT, and they have been underrepresented in terms of people that qualify for those negotiator positions. In Oregon, it was called right-of-way agents. And I believe that that's an area where we need to make sure people are entering those jobs at a rate that will not let what happened in Oregon that's causing the removal of decades of Black families and other people of color from the right-of-way where highways were built. And I believe that still exists. I shared an article, I think, with that was in the Scanner News about nationally, HUD has a study that people of color are not in those occupations. And that is sort of a leads into how displacement happens.
It's a really good point, Vicki.
I would add, Vicki, just that the real estate market for employees is incredibly tight. And then the pay scale at the states for what we can compensate versus other folks can compensate is incredibly challenging. So it's certainly for people of color, but across the board. And my real estate office is down like 3 folks right now. Well, and they're going to be really hard to replace.
Sounds like a great opportunity. That's the right way. Okay, that's great discussion, everyone. This is exactly the kind of feedback that we were seeking. Let's look at the next few slides so we can get you all out on time. If you could pull those up. Okay, what's next? Next slide, please. Just a reminder, we have a number of upcoming meetings. Our next meeting will be on September 26th. We'll be over in Vancouver in the IVR office where we'll have conversation relative to avoid further harm, where we'll do review and refine. Then we'll have a meeting on October 24th, November 14th, and December 19th. Next slide, please. Programmatic updates in terms of meetings. We have the Community Advisory Group, which meets on September 12th, 4 to 6 p.m. We have our Equity Advisory Group meeting on September 16th, 5:30 to 7:30. And then we have the Bi-State Tolling Subcommittee meeting on September 20th, 1 to 3. And then again, our Community Benefits Advisory Group on September 25th. Next slide. With that, Greg, I'd love to invite you to close us out.
Once again, this is great conversation. We put a stake in the ground at the beginning of this, saying that this program, this multi-billion-dollar investment, just can't be about concrete and steel and asphalt. It's got to be about people, and these are the conversations that help get us to that point. So we appreciate the input, and we will keep working and refining for a final product that will be implementable and we will be held accountable for. So thanks everyone for their time and efforts.
And real quickly, as Marianne noted, we had a slide that says September 25th. Our meeting is actually on September 26th. So we'll make sure that we send out the convention. Thank you all. You all have a wonderful day. Great discussion. Thank you. Good discussion. Oh, it's fun.
Yes, I didn't have to. Considering power dynamics.